Hey everyone, this week in our summer series, A Shared Gospel, we looked at the life of a guy named Timothy. Timothy, just some kind of big ideas from the sermon, that Timothy, he really was like a son to the Apostle Paul. He essentially became Paul's right-hand man in the ministry to the churches. I started by just kind of talking about some things that the Apostle Paul probably noticed in Timothy. Number one was a sincere faith. He mentioned that in 2 Timothy 1 verse 5. Paul noticed a genuine commitment then to the mission. He could trust Timothy. He sent him to several churches and he trusted him completely. And then, Paul noticed an eagerness to learn and to grow in Timothy. I think we see that pretty evident throughout his life. And then the big thing that I really wanted to spend some time on was that Timothy was really young when he began to travel with Paul, and he was really young when he became a pastor. And so we talked a little bit about just the tension that sometimes exists between the older generations and the younger generations, even in the church world. So kind of big ideas were that older generations really need to have an attitude, the attitude of Paul towards the younger generations, where they pray for them, encourage them, and invest in them. And then younger generations need to have the attitude of Timothy towards the older generations, where they don't just kind of blow them off or ignore them, but they honor and they respect them, and then they set an example of godly conduct, like Paul challenges Timothy to do. And so we just took a little bit of time talking about that and how really part of the beauty of the church is a lot of different diversity, but age diversity is part of that. And I think Paul and Timothy really show us a good way to kind of walk in that diversity. So I hope you enjoyed that this week. Here's some questions for you guys to discuss. As always, what was most interesting or encouraging to you this week? Number 2, what was most challenging or maybe raise some further questions for you this week? Question number 3, do you spend much time with people who are outside of your age bracket? So maybe 20 or 30 years older or younger than you. And if so, what lessons have you learned from them? What do they teach you? Question number 4, in what ways might it be beneficial for the church to have people from different generations spend time together in community? What might be the problems of having a church community that is not age diverse? Question number 5, studies show that we, or most people, tend to be more negative or critical of other generations. This is true for both younger and older generations. So why do you think that is true? And have you noticed this attitude in yourself at all? And then how can we, or the church, kind of help change this tendency? Rather than growing increasingly negative or critical of other generations, how can we, again, be more supportive, be more encouraging, and edifying of them? All right. And then the action step this week was to spend some time with someone from another generation and then just see what you can learn from each other. All right. Hope you've enjoyed the series so far. We got about 3 weeks left, and I will see you next Sunday.